Hello and welcome to part 2 of my look at the Ouya. In this installment, I'm going to be talking about the NES emulator for Ouya, which is easily one of its best features. Now, anyone who has followed my channel for a long time or checked out my blog knows that I'm a huge fan of the NES and Famicom. In fact, I think the NES is the best system of all time. There are so many great classic games that are just as much fun to play today as they were in the day where they were released. So, I'm pretty critical when it comes to emulation. Most of the time I shy away from it, preferring to play on either the original hardware or Famiclones. Now, when I bought the Ouya, I thought, I wonder how the NES emulator is. Thankfully, the NES emulator is absolutely fantastic. For very few problems with this emulator aside, I think that this emulator is one of the best reasons to buy an Ouya. With all that said, let's play some games, right? So I'm going to boot this up and launch the emulator. Now this is version 1.5.12, which will, of course be updated in the future, so any issues that I might talk about here have the potential to be changed in the future, so, keep in mind when this is made. Alright, so here you have a very standard Android-like interface here, where you can choose your games and other settings. There is an interesting option here that's faded out called FDS control. Now, I don't know because I haven't been able to get any FDS games working, but if anyone knows on how to get that, the disk system games, running on this thing, I definitely appreciate some help with that. Because right now, it's a big minor point, it's a big negative point, I should say, that this thing does not run Famicom disk system games. There aren't that many great games for the disk system, that's really that big of a deal, but it is definitely a downer that FDS games don't work. Alright, so let's load games. So here is a folder that I've created specifically for this review, so I'm going to be showcasing these games. First things first, let's talk about Super Mario Brothers, because everyone loves this game, right? Super Mario Brothers on Ouya. Now I should also mention that as I play this, I'm using the official wireless Ouya controller and not, some USB controller or something. So as you can see, there's no lag, controls are spot on, and, if I screw up, it's because of my own bad playing. Now, of course, I'm playing this on an HD TV, and this is running in 1080p natively, so, yeah, it looks just fantastic in real life. For those curious, you can actually go to the menu here, go to the options, and you can change the video settings. For one thing, you can change the aspect ratio back to 4:3. And play it in its original, 4:3 aspect ratio instead of the stretch 16:9, to fit a widescreen display. Or I could go and change it to be 1:1. 1:1 means that there are exactly 256 by 240 pixels on screen, which is the exact resolution of the NES. This is, sort of pseudo 4:3. This is the exact resolution that the original system ran at, meaning that you get some sort of weird effects like that you just saw with the 100 points thing, or 1,000 points thing. Another thing I can do here is I can go to the settings, I can put on an image filter if I wanted. I could put on the linear filtering, which, sort of is what I like to call a Vaseline filter. It softens the pixels and makes it, kind of look better, I guess. Personally, I hate these kind of filters. I think they always are awful. I just prefer the sharp edges of pixel graphics, because if you're going to play a retro system, you want the retro graphics, right? Alright, enough of that. Let's move on with a different game here. Let's go to, how about Mario 3? Mario 3 is another classic everyone wants to see, right? So here, let's go change the aspect ratio back to full screen. And as you can hear, the sound is just absolutely perfect. It couldn't be possibly better than what it is. At least for these kind of games that use just the stock sound. Now, for those curious, the controls are entirely customizable, so if you don't like the control setup that the default controls are, they are very easily changed. In fact, another thing you can do here through the video options is have a zoom level. Now, the zoom level is currently at 90%, because at 100%, what happens is the image actually gets chopped and cropped a little tiny bit, where the very far extreme edges, the left and right sides, are actually removed to make the thing fit a 16:9 display. It, you know, kind of zooms in on the entire image and cuts the very far edges off. You know, it makes things like, you know, the score in Castlevania just read or, you know, or something like that. You know, it cuts off the very far edges. So by changing it to 90%, you can actually make it a little bit windowed. So you have, you know, basically 10% of the screen as a little black window. And around that, you can see all pixels. Alright, let's try a different game, right? How about Castlevania 3. Everyone's always asking about this, right? Castlevania 3 absolutely runs, as well as all other MMC5 games. No problem here. How about its Japanese counterpart, Akumajo Densetsu? Here it is, running in its VRC glory. The VRC6 is working perfectly for this, with its very rich sound. Now, it should be mentioned here that the audio that this thing emulates is similar to that of the AB Famicom, or the HVC 101. This means that some of the audio channels in expansion chips are a little bit quieter than they should be on a real Famicom, or on the original Famicom. It's a little bit annoying, and there's no way to configure this currently, but, you know, eventually I think that they'll eventually, you know, be able to fix this and add in, you know, volume controls of the individual sound channels, because if they could do that, it would solve very, you know, it's very annoying, very minor annoyance here. Alright, next, let's move on. How about Gimmick? One of my favorite Famicom games of all. And here you can see the YM2413, or whatever the sound chip it's running, the Yamaha chip. Sounds perfect. But again, it's that of the AB Famicom. Alright, enough of that. VRC7. Lagrange point. Perfect. Hauntingly, almost. It's a great sound. I love it. Alright. Next, Master Children Drunker 2. Sachin game, not very good, but hey, it runs. I've had enough of that. Micro Machines, Camerica. Another unlicensed game. Be the fat guy. Also runs. No problem. Next, Tengen's Tetris. Another great game. So as you can see, all games run perfect. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.